tensions, yes, between Ukraine and Russia have escalated further. Russia has intensified diplomatic provocation by legitimizing Ukrainian rebels and two rebel-controlled areas as independent states. In other words, Russia has now signed an agreement with those that want to split Ukraine. The latest move from the Putin government has prompted sanctions from multiple world powers, including Germany and the United Kingdom, even as the ink was drying on the paper that bears the agreement between Putin and Ukrainian separatists. Times Now became the only Indian channel to reach the last post before the Ukrainian border, or the border Ukraine shares with Russia, in the separatist province of Donetsk. And we brought a story to you, viewers, from a place called New York. Yes, viewers, New York. It is barely meters from where the separatists in Ukraine, backed by Russia, are pummeling the Ukrainian state into submission. And it is also barely kilometers from where the Russians have deployed heavy military machinery to literally roll into Ukraine, just like they did in the 60s and 70s, in the 50s and 60s in Eastern Europe. Here is this report from Times Now's correspondents who are on the ground.
Hello, I'm Catherine, speaking from village New York in Ukraine for Times Now. I stay in the Centrum Street and I'm gonna show you what happened here right now.
Katerina is risking her life as she takes Times Now viewers on a tour of a devastated town. Ironically, just 6 kilometers from the last checkpoint along the Ukrainian-Russian border, this town is called New York. Yes, viewers, New York, like the American megalopolis. Katerina moves her camera around to show us the devastation caused by the constant mortar attacks by these men, Ukrainian rebels who have allegedly been backed by Russia to split Ukraine and reunite the Donetsk province. All around, we can see the dilapidated homes of the locals that find themselves in the line of fire. Even the roads bear crater holes. In fact, Nina says that shelling is almost a daily affair. But though she's scared for her life, she's going nowhere. Nina says she's ready to take a bullet for the motherland.
Уже годы отжила. Господь спасет, значит, спасет, а не спасет. Значит, уже этого. А куда? Куда сейчас? А то ее тут в Басе сказали эвакуироваться снова, там текали, уезжали, уехали. И дед умер, и назад приехал отсюда с дедом в 16-м году. И все, и больше никуда не поехал.
A little away from Nina's home is the main street of the town. It is deserted. Only a few step out to get essentials like medicines or provisions from the few open shops. Though life has been reduced to a living hell, many locals are not budging.
Куда? Мы здесь с 14-го года, никуда не уезжаем. Разбивается, делаем, ремонтируем и так далее. А смысл бросать свое, и где мы там будем жить дальше? Ну где? Ну поживем месяц-два.
The Ukrainians are resolute people. They draw heavily from the courage of the heavenly 100 heroes who sacrificed their lives in 2014 in the civil resistance to a former Ukrainian regime that was almost totally controlled by Russia.
Shelling and mortar fire have become an all-day event along the Ukrainian front line. But the residents don't leave. They say it's their homeland.
Alex Goncharenko, Ukrainian Member of Parliament, with us, and so is General Bakshi. General Bakshi, thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. Before I bring in Alex Goncharenko, General Bakshi, there is a question that is on everyone's mind. Is war inevitable? And if so, will it spill over to engulf the whole world? You have been doing some analysis of this. You've been simulating some war games. What's the answer to these questions?
Yeah. Look, Rahul, I will speak as a very detached military observer. I'm not getting into morality plays of who's right and who is wrong.
Yes.
As a military analyst, I can just tell you this, that out of the 12 combined armed armies, which are the equivalent of our corps of the Russian Republic, 11 are deployed around Ukraine. The 41st Army moved into Belarus for joint exercises. These were to last from 10th to 20th of February. After the exercises are over, they have refused to move back. They have refused to move back. The Su-35 fighter bombers, their Iskander missiles, their tanks, their self-propelled artillery is all at the takeoff positions. That means they can inflict or carry out either a limited war or a full-scale invasion at very short notice, zero notice, right? What they have done on the ground is, yesterday, Putin recognized the two breakaway republics of, LPR and DPR, right? Donetsk and Luhansk, right? These are separatist, Russian separatist-backed republic. He's moved in his army despite all the threats of sanctions, etc. What you are seeing is a determined bid by Russia to change the post-Cold War security scenario in Eastern Europe. He feels that he has been pushed far enough. 14 countries which were former members of the Warsaw Pact, members of the Soviet Socialist Republic, have joined NATO.
Okay.
It's a very relentless eastward push, right? And now Russia wants to say thus far and no further. It had done that in 2008 in Georgia, and the situation is almost a Georgia redux now in Ukraine. It had done in 2014, it had taken Crimea and moved into Donbass. There was no reaction from NATO and the West. Even today, I'm very sorry to state, but there will be no reaction from America or NATO, no military action, only economic sanctions. And as you have seen, they have failed to deter Russia. They have failed to deter Russia. So now kinetic actions have started on the borders of DPR,
right.
LPR, mostly DPR. And kinetic actions can escalate. If they escalate, they provide Russia a pretext for full-scale military action.
Okay, important.
It will not spread to the world.
It won't spread to the world.
It will not spread to the world.
It won't spread to the world. Let me bring in Alex Goncharenko, Ukrainian MP, who's joined us. Mr. Goncharenko, thank you for speaking to Times Now. Is war now inevitable after Putin signed this agreement with the Ukrainian separatists to split Ukraine?
The war is already coming for more than 8 years. The war started on February 20, 2014 with the start of Russian annexation of Ukrainian peninsula Crimea. And now the war is continuing, unfortunately. But I don't believe that the big intervention of Russian Federation to Ukraine is imminent, and I believe that the strong strength of Ukrainian army and the support of international allies can stop aggressor, can stop Putin from this big intervention.
Okay, that's very interesting. But do you believe, and we've just heard General Bakshi, who's one of India's premier strategists, and he says that, look, NATO is not going to come to your rescue. Do you believe that to be true, or do you believe that NATO will in fact intervene on your side?
We know that nobody will fight for ourselves, and we don't need it. We are ready to fight for ourselves. But we already receiving help from the United States, the United Kingdom, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Czech Republic, Netherlands, Canada, and the other countries. So many NATO countries are already helping Ukraine with weapons, which is the most important now, but not all of them. And I hope that all NATO countries and in general all civilized world will punish Russian Federation with sanctions for what had happened, because Russian Federation not only violated the sovereignty of Ukraine and territorial integrity of our country, but it also violated international law and the borders of all countries in the world. If like this could be done, so all countries are in danger now.
Well, so you're not expecting, as General Bakshi has also sort of surmised, you're not expecting NATO to militarily stand with you. Yes, you're expecting logistical help and perhaps larger sanctions, etc. So how do you describe the mood in Ukraine? Is there a sense of inevitability? Last question to you, Mr. Goncharenko. Is there panic, apprehension, resolve? Or are you saying that, look, it's inevitable, we're going to get taken over and so be it?
There is no panic in Ukraine. People are ready to fight for our country, and political class in general also. So we are united around our country, and I'm sure that is very important. That's what is making price of intervention for Putin very high.
Well, may God be with you. Mr. Goncharenko, thank you very much. General Bakshi, thank you very much for sharing your perspective. Viewers, in India, the finance minister today said we have to also brace ourselves for an economic fallout, because there will be escalating price of crude oil, which could have a deleterious effect on our economy. So we also need to be prepared. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, viewers.